Schumacher, Hamilton, Fangio, Prost, Vettel. What a random list of drivers, you may be thinking, or you might be thinking, I'm listing maybe my GOAT rankings. No, to neither of those. Those are all the drivers who have won 4 or more Formula One World Drivers' Championships. One more driver was added to that list tonight. Max Verstappen won his 4th straight championship as a driver. So yeah, he adds himself to an exclusive list. It is currently 2:05 a.m. here in the United States of America. Central time zone, not quite on Vegas time. They're a couple hours behind. But yes, we're going to do our race recap thanks to all of you who showed up to the live stream. But Max Verstappen in only the second Las Vegas Grand Prix. Last year, he was the winner. This year, he clinches his world championship this year. A very different story in his world championship. But outside of just Verstappen winning the championship, George Russell, absolute domination in this race. Won the pole. He led lap 1, and I think he led all but 3 laps or so. Those other 3 laps that he didn't lead were through the pit cycle, so really just nothing of his own. But we saw a very interesting race with a lot of tire talk, with it being all cold and stuff. 2-stop race made it intriguing, made it different. Not exactly as exciting as last year's race. Last year's was arguably the race of the year, but it was a solid race tonight. I thought a lot of passing. We saw 3 wide with like Perez, Lawson, and third car. I can't remember if it was Hulkenberg or Magnussen, but yeah, Mercedes, who's just been solidly 4th in that constructor standings. They've had a solid year. They've won a few races this year with both drivers, but as of late, it's really just been McLaren, Ferrari. And then you had Verstappen at Brazil. That seemed like a one-off, honestly. And it's crazy to say that, it really is. But then this weekend, Mercedes just shows up out of nowhere. The cold temperature suits them, and Hamilton fastest in first practice. Hamilton fastest in second. Russell fastest in third. And then Russell gets the pole. Hamilton qualifies 10th, but you know, he messed up his first lap, and then the second lap, track limits, and he starts 10th, and then he rallies, and he finishes 2nd. And Mercedes just dominated the weekend. They were the quickest car this weekend. Who would have seen that coming? I think a lot of people had Ferrari written in as winning this race. Maybe McLaren as well. McLaren obviously has been arguably the fastest car since June. Let's call it maybe even May. But yeah, Max Verstappen locks up his championship. George Russell wins a race, his 3rd career win. Big day for him. Great things on the sphere throughout the weekend. We had Sergio Perez get eliminated in Q1. And Sergio Perez on the sphere, taunting Sergio Perez on the track. That's, yeah, man, you can't make it up. It's been that bad for Sergio Perez as of late. Also on the sphere, we had Charles Leclerc cheering on Charles Leclerc. Charles Leclerc finally snapped. Ferrari has finally broken him. I won't play it because copyright reasons and bad words involved, but Charles Leclerc finally snapped, and he said a bunch of things on the radio. I will put the link somewhere on here. It's on Twitter. But Charles Leclerc finally just was so fed up with the team, I guess, about the strategy call or something. But he went on a little post-race rant on the radio. Then he apologized for saying it on the radio. I don't know. Carlos Sainz on the podium. Lewis Hamilton on the podium. I'm trying to think of what else. Colapinto hard crash in practice. I love this race. I love Vegas. Last year was such a great race. I know there was the controversy with the manhole and stuff. But yeah. So, not as great of a race this year, but I still thought it was solid. The different strategies, the tire wear. Hamilton tried his best to make it exciting, but he was 10 seconds back. He wasn't going to catch up to George Russell, who won this race. George Russell, big day for him. Big day for him to get another race win added to his total tally in his career to win in Las Vegas. He was thrilled after the race. You got to remember, this guy finished first at Spa on the racetrack. And he got that win taken away from him. His car was too light. He got disqualified, and it's soul-crushing. It really is. It doesn't matter who you are. To win a race on the track, to celebrate, go up on the podium, hear your country's national anthem, hear your constructor's national anthem, get the trophy, spray the champagne, and then get told a couple hours later, hey, man, we're going to need that trophy back. And by the way, all those great memories you just made, they don't count. It's soul-crushing. And so they've been waiting for their moment. They finally got their moment today, and George Russell has gotten some redemption in a sense, and he won the second ever Las Vegas Grand Prix. Fun fact, you see these podium sitters here. This guarantees, unless there's a post-race disqualification, as we just talked about. This guarantees that there will never, ever in the history of the Las Vegas Grand Prix be a 100% podium sitter. Last year's podium was Verstappen, Leclerc, Perez. As you can see, none of them on the podium. Lewis Hamilton finished second. A great drive from him today. What do we expect out of Lewis Hamilton? I mean, he just kind of does this. It's kind of his thing, which is to be just great, honestly. But Lewis Hamilton started 10th. Once again, great weekend for Mercedes, but just Q3 for Hamilton. And he said it in his post-race interview, if he doesn't screw up yesterday, he could be winning today, or at least have a better shot at it. And that's ultimately what cost him. He started 10th. He had a great day. He passed everyone on track. He passed Verstappen, passed the Ferraris, passed Lando. I mean, they did it the right way. Hamilton drove fantastically. He just was too far back, and he didn't have enough time. That's ultimately what cost him. Q3 on Saturday, or Friday. Q3 on Friday. Ends up costing Lewis Hamilton on Saturday, and Lewis Hamilton finishes second. It's a great day for him. And then the next question, is this it? Is this Lewis Hamilton's last podium with Mercedes? Is this today? It's now November 24th. Is November 24th, is today the last ever podium for Lewis and Mercedes? Wow. Crazy to think. And then we talk about the guy whose job he stole. Carlos Sainz finishes third. Great day for him. Great day to get a podium. Started second, fell obviously to third. But as I said, Mercedes, which is in another level this week. But Sainz, great day for him. He finishes on the podium. He beats his teammate. He about missed pit entry. I don't know how it wasn't a penalty, but he went in like he was going to pit, and then he just completely blew by pit entry, and no penalty, I guess. And third. Yeah. Fourth place, Charles Leclerc. All right, Ferrari. Their strategies confuse me as well. Ferrari has finally broke Charles Leclerc. We've seen Monaco 2022. I think that's the biggest one. Thankfully, he won at Monaco this year to kind of help ease the pain. But yes, Charles Leclerc was mad at Ferrari for something today. Strategy, I don't know, but he was mad about something. Him and Sainz were right next to each other the entire day. They had to pit really early. He just really beat up those tires in that first stint, and it was a two-stop race, and things happen. Fifth place, Max Verstappen. This just sums up their year right here. Verstappen runs in the podium spots for the majority of the race. Ends up finishing fifth, but he did just enough, and that's ultimately the story of their season. Now, you look at that first part of the season up until Spain in June, and up until that point, it seemed like it was going to be another 2023. Max Verstappen was going to whip the field, destroy everyone, clinch this thing with 6 races to go, and, Perez would do just enough to win the Constructors. That seemed like what it was going to be again. Then the hardship hit for Verstappen and Red Bull, and they went from that race back in June at Spain all the way to Brazil 3 weeks ago. That's how long it took them to win a race again. That's how difficult this championship was for Verstappen. Here's how Verstappen's championships have gone in his career. 2021, one of the most iconic championship fights we've seen in Formula One history against one of the greatest of all time in Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes, who had won, 7 straight Constructors titles and 5 or 6, 7 straight drivers titles with Hamilton and Rosberg. And the cars were basically equal the entire year. We'd have small stints where Mercedes was better, a small stint where Red Bull was better. But at the end of the day, it came down to the wire, down to the last lap. It was controversial. At the end of the day, the safety car call, lapped cars, it was controversial. It was nothing. Max Verstappen and Red Bull did nothing wrong. It's just, call on the field. It was controversial. And he wins that world championship in thrilling fashion. But there's still the controversy, and people online like to complain about it. 2022, Max Verstappen wins the Japanese Grand Prix, but it's shortened, and he gets told initially, no, you're not world champion yet. You got to wait till next week. But then like 20 minutes later, he's sitting there in the cool-down room, and they're like, stop sitting in the normal people room and go over to the champions room. You won again. And he's like, make up your minds, people. I thought you just said I didn't win. Now I won? What? So that's 2 championships, one in, I guess, unconventional form. And then championship number 3. He wins it in a sprint race at Qatar. The man just cannot win a championship normally. Today, he finally did it. He won it by finishing 5th place. And once again, that just sums up Red Bull's year. They did just enough because from June to today, they have done just enough for Verstappen to get by. They have relied on McLaren making mistakes, on Lando Norris making mistakes. They really should have been in this title fight. Lando Norris should have made this Drivers' Championship more interesting. But ultimately, they weren't ready. They were not ready to compete for a driver's title. They're clearly ready to fight for a constructor's title because they're leading with 2 races to go. But in terms of the driver's fight, they were not ready. And Verstappen, we know he's ready. He's already won 3 of them, now 4 of them. And today proved that once again. Verstappen did not have to win the race to win the championship. He did not have to finish 2nd or 3rd. All he had to do was beat Lando. 5th place was enough. Story of their season. They just did what they had to do. And Martin Brundle described it perfectly after the race. A world champion, yes, look at last year. Verstappen obliterated the field, dominated, killed everyone. No adversity really for Verstappen in 2023. This year they had adversity, and that's what makes a world champion. When there's adversity, when it's not 100% guaranteed at times, and sometimes you just have to settle for 5th. Sometimes you just have to settle for 3rd, 7th, whatever it may be. And you just got to take the points and move on and just get your points. That's what they did this year. They didn't win every race like they did last year. They didn't, even 2022, they had some early adversity in 2022 when Ferrari did great and they had their DNFs, but once Spain of 2022 hit, they just obliterated everyone. They haven't had that adversity since. And it hit pretty hard. They were able to overcome it. So, Max Verstappen, world champion, again. Lando Norris loses the Drivers' Championship. McLaren seemed like they were expecting to lose points in the Constructors' battle this week, and it made sense because Ferrari looked better at this track, and it seems like a track that suits their style more. But they got Qatar next week, which should suit McLaren better, especially with how well they did last year. But Lando Norris officially eliminated from Drivers' Championship contention. It's a close battle between him and Leclerc for 2nd, though. Let me tell you, that's where it's interesting. Oscar Piastri, and oh, by the way, Lando Norris did get the fastest lap of the race, so add that bonus point there. Hülkenberg, 8th. Great day for Haas and big in the Constructors' Championship, by the way, for them and RB. They're fighting for position. We'll look at the Constructors' Championship here in a minute. 9th place, Yuki Tsunoda. 10th place, Sergio Perez. Started 16th up to 10th. Alonso, Magnussen, Joe Guan Yu, Colapinto started from the pit lane up to 14th. Stroll, Lawson, Ocon, Bottas, Albon did not finish. Gasly did not finish. Gasly started 3rd. Such a great qualifying effort, and the car dies. So that sucks for them. Let's look at these constructions. The constructor standings. Once again, it's now 2:18 a.m. You're going to have to give me a break. Constructors' Championship is spicy, ladies and gentlemen. McLaren only has a 24-point lead over Ferrari. Red Bull's not quite mathematically eliminated, but they're out. They're out of this thing. Okay, so Red Bull's going to finish 3rd. Mercedes is going to finish 4th. Aston Martin should finish 5th, unless Haas pulls something out these last 2 weeks. But that battle for 6th is extremely spicy. Look at that. Haas only has 4 points on 8th and RB. They got 1 whole single point on Alpine. Big drop-off. Williams is 9th, and Sauber and I have the same amount of points this year. That's cool. Did not think me as a constructor would be tied with Sauber this year, but Gotta take your wins when you can get them, you know? Let's go. Anyways, the second ever Las Vegas Grand Prix is complete. Wish I could have been there. Would have been cool to see a championship clinched in person. But yeah, very fun race. I had a good time watching it. Not as good as last year. Once again, that last year's race was so good. So good. But it's a good racetrack. A lot of passing opportunities. Very unique racetrack. The Sphere provides such great pictures. Treasure Island. By the way, that if you ever go to Treasure Island, go to their Popeyes. They always got TNT in there, and it's always like Star Wars or another random movie, so that's kind of cool. But the Las Vegas Strip, always pretty, always nice and bright and colorful and shiny and all that stuff. But I got to get some sleep now. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know what your thoughts are on Leclerc's radio message to Ferrari. They finally broke him. Let me know what your thoughts are on Max Verstappen winning his 4th championship. Your thoughts on George Russell winning the race. Is this it? Is this Lewis Hamilton's last podium? But next week, Qatar, looking forward to it. This Constructors Championship. Tight battle, ladies and gentlemen.